Good day, good day. We have a subject to discuss today regarding passport application rejections, and some of our members within Patreon are experiencing rejections stating they are U.S. citizens and not nationals of the state / country they were born in, as stated in the course and the 0% book that you may find off of Amazon. Despite all the evidence submitted with the applications, however, the basis for the rejection is because the older DS-11 forms allowed us to cross out specific information as instructed. But if you're using newer DS-11 versions, you cannot mark or cross out anything. I'll say that again. If you're using a newer version, DS-11 form, you cannot add any marks or make any crossouts anywhere on the application as we once did in the past. The older DS-11 forms allowed for us to do that because it told us to do that in the instructions. And if we did not do it as the instructions told us to, then that means we have submitted a false or incorrect application. And therefore, they would give us a passport card or passport book with the presumption of U.S. citizenship or United States nationals. Those two terms are one and the same. You can find that inside of their United States code book. U.S. citizens is one and the same as a U.S. national. You do not want to be either of those, and you do not want to be an American national. Okay, you are a national of the state that you were born in. We already know this. You've seen this. You've heard me talk about it time and time again. If you're new to it, please go to patreon.com / the 0% or pick up the book and get further explanation. Now, what you're going to do to make your position known, instead of making the marks or crossing out specific sections on the passport application, the newer versions inside of the acts and conditions section of the DS-11, all they want you to do to make your position known is to provide a supplementary explanatory statement only. Okay, so let's get into exactly what that looks like. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Now I'm going to pull up a letter here for one of our members who experienced a rejection. Load this up. So try and follow along. I'm going to put myself in his shoes as if this was me. What would I do? How would I respond to this letter? And I think you should respond the same way. So it says, thank you for your recent passport application. It appears from the facts of your birth and the documents you submitted that you are a U.S. citizen entitled to a U.S. passport. They are saying his U.S. citizenship entitles him to a U.S. passport, according to his birth and the other documents he submitted. Now, this is an invalid statement. He is entitled to something else, and I will show you what that is. In accordance with the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. As supreme law of our land, it cannot be waived by unilateral declaration, except as otherwise provided by law. If you were to provide a declaration, they're saying it's going to be, it cannot be waived. Any of this cannot be waived except what? Provided by law. You have to make clear what law allows you to make a declaration that you are not a U.S. citizen. And we will get into that. The statutes, you see, already they're putting you under the Administrative Procedures Act of 1946, undergoing statutes and codes when in reality, lawfully, you should be under the common law, whether that's the Declaration of Rights or the Bill of Rights of your country's constitution. And I'm talking about the constitutions prior to 1933 of the United States corporate bankruptcy. It says the statutes governing the issuance of U.S. passports require that a passport be issued only after the applicant has completed an unaltered application and subscribed to it in a manner provided by regulations. Therefore, you cannot be issued a passport unless you submit an unaltered application. So this is what happened. Prior to 2020, the older DS-11 forms allowed us to provide certain markings and crossing out of information on the application to deem that it was valid. Now, when everyone was under house arrest under the pandemic, they issued a new DS-11. And I think they submitted it going, yes, it was right in the middle of 2020, the pandemic. And now on those applications, you cannot cross out anything. They did it while everybody was at home. A lot like many different laws that they pass, whether it's a banking holiday or something like that. So upon receipt of the appropriate passport application, a U.S. passport will be issued stating that you are a U.S. citizen. Now, in their records, if you do it correctly, it's going to show that you are a national, but they will give you a passport book or a passport card that looks like everyone else. They're not going to give you something that is drastically different. We know that. But the numbers, and there are key indicators on the passport cards to let you know that you are not a U.S. citizen and you did it correctly. To submit your application, please return to the acceptance facility where you originally applied with the following: a new completed application. Do not sign it until instructed by a passport acceptance agent. Now, let me talk about this. The application tells you where you can submit your passport application to. I highly recommend that you only go to the county clerk's office in your local town. Do not go to a United States Post Office service center, because it is all about seals. When your passport application is sealed by a clerk of the court, you've actually done a process with a naturalization court. A clerk of court is an immigration officer. That's where everyone would go to do a process like this before the USCIS came into fruition. Go to the clerk of court to turn in your passport application so that you can receive their seal on your application. I would also recommend that you pay for expedite services. Pay the additional fee, I believe it's $60 or maybe more, so that you can get approved quickly. You want this to be expressed. We're talking about, in this class and in the book, the express trust. Everything should be expressed. Do it quickly and privately. You also need to turn in valid IDs, passport photograph, or you can go down to Walgreens, CVS and get passport photos. And also include this letter. Your evidence of U.S. citizenship has been retained by our office and will be returned to you once the application process is concluded. So this means that they have his current birth certificate and his application and his previous explanatory statements. And he's not going to get it back until he fulfills this new DS-11 form. It says no additional execution fee will be charged if you return the same acceptance, if you return to the same acceptance facility where you initially applied. However, if you apply at a different acceptance facility, an additional execution fee must be paid directly to that acceptance facility. To assist with processing your application, we must receive the requested information within 90 days. So he has 90 days from July 13th. Otherwise, he will forfeit his application fee. The entire thing will be denied. It is non-refundable. He will get his birth certificate back, but he will not receive the application that he submitted. They will keep that. Okay, so let's get into the new application. I'm going to compare. What I want to do is compare the newer applications versus the older ones. That's something very interesting to see the difference. So when I did mine back in 2020, this was the application that was submitted. And if we go to the acts and conditions section right here, it tells us what to do. If any of the below mentioned acts or conditions have been performed by or apply to the applicant, the portion which applies should be lined out. And that's what we did here. We lined out the specific words and phrases that applies to me. If you did not do this using this application at the time it was valid, then you are saying otherwise. So you were supposed to line things out and provide a supplementary explanatory statement under oath or affirmation, which is an affidavit. If you did not attach an affidavit under oath signed by a notary, or at least under oath, sometimes it doesn't have to be notarized, but if you didn't do that, then you did this process incomplete and you are presumed to be a naturalized citizen of the United States. Okay, so if you were to remove these lines, you didn't line it out, you are saying that you have been convicted of a federal or state drug offense or convicted of a sex tourism crime statute, and that you are subject of an outstanding federal, state, or local warrant of arrest for a felony, which means you are bound by all of the sections of the 14th Amendment contract of the Constitution. Because I believe Section 5 says that no citizen who is subject to the thereof, no citizen that is subject to the thereof can question the validity of the public debt. So if you don't cross this out, then you're saying that you are convicted. And guess what? This is the evidence that they need to reduce the number of representatives who have voting power. Did you catch that? I hope you did. So if you try to do this method on the newer forms, it's automatically going to get rejected. Let's take a look at the newer forms. This is it here. Remember, the older form says that you have to line it out and provide an explanatory statement. This one is a 2022 version, but I assure you they also have a 2020 version. Here's the 2020. and we will compare side by side. Let's go down on the 2020, the acts and conditions section right here. Now look at it. If any of the below mentioned acts or conditions have been performed by or applied to the applicant, a supplementary explanatory statement under oath or affirmation by the applicant should be attached and made a part of this application. Hey, what happened to the lining out part? All of a sudden the pandemic happens and the lining out part goes away. Is it the same thing on the 2022 version? Inquiring minds would like to know. Here it is, acts and conditions. Yep, it's not there. So all they want you to do now is provide an explanatory statement. Now, what do you do with this section here if they don't want you to line it out? Simple. In your affidavit of your explanatory statement, you're going to write out this entire thing word for word because it is true and correct and it applies to you. As they said here, it applies to the applicant. You provide an explanatory statement. You write this down and say, under penalty of perjury, it is true and correct. All right. So now, if you want to know how to fill out the entire application, go into the Patreon course and get started in the freshman tier and work your way up through the sophomore, junior, and senior. The senior course will show you exactly how to do the applications, and you can have it all done from there. So let us continue. I'm going to show you how to open up a letter directly to the Department of State before you do the application all over again. So we're creating a packet, okay, for a packet according to what they want us to do. Everything in orange is what you change. Everything in black, you leave alone. Simple letter that you guys can type up. This is regarding passport application number, for Cottrell Avery Duvall. Of course, I always do last name, comma, first name, middle, because that is the creditor side of the debtor side. You in class, you know what I'm talking about, but for those that don't, what is the difference? And I will explain that briefly. Here you have last, first, middle. That's the creditor side to the debtor side, first, middle, last. This is what you see on the birth certificate. This is what you see on your social security card. This is what you see on your driver's licenses. This is what you see on all of your credit card statements, right? There are two sides to the same coin, heads and tails. Creditor side is tails, debtor side is heads. However, there are three sides to a coin. There is the edge. The edge, and we call that's where your express trust remains. And the express trust is on the edge. It controls both sides. Put it this way, it owns both sides if you declare it to be. The trust is on the edge and it owns both sides of the ledger. When you think about fractional reserve banking, you have two sides to the ledger. A public side and a private side. This is the public and this is the private. So if you are not referring to yourself as a 14th Amendment debtor person, and you still have to use your name, and put it in the form of tails, put it in the form of private, put it in the form of creditor. Okay. Greetings, I, Cottrell, Avery Duvall, have submitted my passport application, DS-11, on whatever year that you sent it in, under seal of the Newcastle County Clerk of Court. Or if you did it at the post office for whatever reason, then go ahead and put that information. To your office. Your correspondence dated July 11th, 2022 has been received and reviewed. You have determined, according to my birth certificate and additional documentation, that I am a U.S. citizen and that my rights to a United States of America passport is on hold until an unaltered passport application is received within 90 days of the date of your correspondence. I have attached a new application, DS11, version April 2022, with an explanatory statement as instructed on page 4 of 4 of the acts or conditions, signed before a valid passport agent. Govern yourselves accordingly, and then you would sign and provide your information. So that's the letter. Now, let's look at the explanatory statements to respond to their rejection. Here we go. I always have a header at the top. The header will say, this explanatory statements are to remain with and attached to the passport application. In order for this passport application to be true and correct under penalty of perjury under the laws of the United States of America. Now, why do I keep saying United States of America? Well, let's go to Google. You'll see why. If you go to 28 USC 1746, and the reason why they chose 1746 because it is the actual year of the Republic Constitution, not 1787, not 1789, I-746. And we're talking about penalties under perjury, penalty of perjury, unsworn declarations. They even tell you there are two different sides to the United States corporation. Look at number 1. If executed without the United States, you're going to say this: I declare or certify, verify, or state under penalty of perjury under the laws of the United States of America. This is referring to United States of America in Congress assembled. So we are talking about the private side, the creditor side of America. That the foregoing is true and correct. You sign your name and you provide the date. Number 2, if executed within the United States, its territories, possessions, or commonwealths. And when they say territories, this is when all of the territories, such as the territory of California, territory of New York, territory of Delaware, all of them has ceded over their jurisdiction to the District of Columbia. Then you're going to say, I declare, certify, verify, state under penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct. Now you are under their jurisdiction if you use this. You are also under their jurisdiction if you don't say this. You must be specific, and you will see this throughout our explanatory statements for their rejection. Okay, let's go back to it. Make this a little bit larger. All right, so that's why I say under the laws of the United States of America. Do not leave it vague and short. Here we go. Passport explanatory statements as required by the acts or conditions listed in the instructions on page 4. Like I said before, everything in orange, you change according to your personal information. Everything in black stays the same. but you can use whatever you want to do, whatever your spirit tells you to do. This is how I would answer a rejection. I would simply enforce what has already been done. Take judicial notice. You can say judicial or you can say equitable. Judicial is going to prepare yourself for the Administrative Procedures Act of 1946. It's called a judicial review. Equitable is going to be completely under the common law jurisdiction of your state. Some states call it chancery. Depends on where you are. Usually chancery pertains to all of the East Coast states. But let's continue. Take judicial notice, I, Cottrell, Avery Duvall, the settler and trust protector, under declaration of the excommunicado express trust, dated January 1st of 2017, registered in the county of Fulton, Georgia, file number. And this is the file number where you recorded your trust. This is not something we're making up. You actually recorded the trust here. Hereby refer to book number, page number, known as Trustee Minutes for 1987 on July 20th, 2020. My declaration of nationality before an immigration officer who, the Honorable Kathleen Robinson, where the Lewis R. Slayton Courthouse, 136 Pryor Street, Suite C155, Atlanta, Georgia. And you can actually go to this courthouse, type in my name, and you'll see my trust there. Within a naturalization court that I, blah, 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 am a more Aboriginal Georgian national, but not a United States citizen as stated in 90 Statute at Large, 266 Public Law 94, 241, Section 302, March 24th, 1976. You can Google this, go to Section 302, and it will tell you how you can declare to be something other than a United States citizen. And you want to do that with the clerk of court because they are an immigration officer. And this law says to do it before them first. Now, if you're born in Nevada, you're going to put Nevadan. If you're born in Louisiana, you're going to put Louisianian. Oregon, Oregonian. More is attributed for those that have a lot of melanin in their skin. They're either going to be tawny, they look a lot like Steph Curry, or swarthy like Michael Jordan. If that is not you, you're not going to use more. You're just going to leave it alone, take it off, and put Aborigine or Aboriginal. There's only three that you can use: Moor, Aborigine, and Hindu. If you're not from the West Indies of India nation, you don't want to use Hindu. But Moor, Aboriginal, or Hindu, and then you put the country you were born in, followed by this phrase here. And that comes from this law. So we have just fulfilled the part where they asked us, except as otherwise provided by law. And here's the law. Take equitable notice. Failure to rebut point for point within 90 days shall be acceptance and acquiesce. Evidence of my birth in the territory. See, I don't want to say state of, because state of refers to the territories and possessions of the District of Columbia when they ceded over their jurisdiction to them. I'm talking about what this land was before that happened. So I would say territory. Territory of Georgia declares, I am a Georgian national distinguished from a United States citizen. I further state that I am not a debtor subject to any section of the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. The territory of Georgia is not located in the United States. The United States is located in the District of Columbia, as described in the Uniform Commercial Code subsection 9-307H. Let's go there really quick. See what that looks like. This is talking about the location of a debtor. If we go down to section H, it tells you the location of the United States is located in the District of Columbia. So how can I be a United States citizen if I was born in Georgia? See, that only happens if I accept the assumption that I am a subject of thereof. Do you see that? Let's continue. Further evidence, the territory of Georgia is separate from the United States, which is described in Article 3, Section 4, Paragraph 5, 1877 Georgia Constitution. Each senator and representative, before taking his seat, shall take the following oath or affirmation, to wit, I will support the Constitution of this state and of the United States. They just described two different jurisdictions. There's the Constitution of Georgia, and there's the Constitution of the United States. Nowhere on my birth certificate or your birth certificate does it say United States. Nowhere. It only says the name of the country you were born in. The reason why we call them states is because all of them came together militarily to form a more perfect union. The word state is military. It's a military term. All right. Country is a trust law term. And they don't want you to know that your country was first formed by a trust. Further evidence of that, if you go to the 1877 Constitution of Georgia, the charter, the convention that brought this whole thing together, tells you that they started off as a trust, and it still is. In the preamble section, section 1, paragraph 1, all government of right originates with the people, is founded upon their will only, and is instituted solely for the good of the whole. Public officers, judges, policemen, senators, attorney general, chief justice, secretary of states, county sheriffs are what? Are the trustees and servants of the people. That means if you are the people, you are the beneficiaries. So if you have trustees and beneficiaries in the same sentence, that means this entire Constitution is a trust indenture contract. And you can amend it at any time you see fit. And they have to listen. You have to know that. So there are two different jurisdictions, Constitution of Georgia and the Constitution of the United States. My right to a United States of America passport is derived from the Articles of Confederation, March 1st, 1781. And it says, the better to secure and perpetuate mutual friendship and intercourse among the people of different states in this union. The free inhabitants, that's you and me, of each of these states, papers, vagabonds, and fugitives from justice accepted, shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of free citizens in the several states, and the people of each state shall have free ingress and regress to and from any other state. I don't need a driver's license or a passport to travel domestically. Where does all of that come from? It comes about taking your rights away. But here you don't need it. And the Articles of Confederation precedes the constitutions. And what precedes the Articles of Confederation? The Articles of Association. And who gave them the right to be here in this land? Some form of a corporate sole Secretary of State. And we know who that is, but we'll get into that later. So you have the right of free ingress and regress. This is your natural birthright to have a United States of America passport as a free inhabitant in the country you were born. And your birth certificate is evidence of that. To refuse my birthright to have and to hold a United States of America passport, it commits a corruption of blood as a bona fide free inhabitant of the different states in this union, violating the 1877 Georgia Constitution. No conviction shall work corruption of blood of forfeiture of a state. Let's continue, second page. I like to be short and sweet and to the point. I don't want to put together anything more than 5 pages. This is just going to be 2 pages and you're done. It is further evident that I, under declaration of excommunicado express trust dated cannot, there we go, typo there, cannot lawfully be a United States citizen under special law via the birth certificate alone. The birth certificate contract was executed under legal disability during infancy, and laws of a general nature shall have uniform operation throughout the state, and no special law shall be enacted in any case for which provisions has been made by an existing general law. No general law affecting private rights shall be varied in any particular case by special legislation, except with the free consent in writing of all persons to be affected thereby, and no person under legal disability to contract is capable of such consent. Legal disability is someone that is a minor or an infant, and they're legally incompetent, and they cannot make decisions of their own. So they're saying a person under legal disability, they cannot contract without consent. How did I consent to the birth certificate contract if I was an infant? My mother and father did that, and they did that either under duress because they believed that it was necessary for me to go to public school, and they believed that it was necessary just for me to be here in the lands of North America. And that's not true. If they would have known what they've known today, what they know today, I guarantee you, they would have never got the birth certificate. And I'm sure that would be the case for you all. But it's okay if you have the birth certificate. It allows you to travel the world. What's not okay is the social security number. You don't need that. And you certainly don't need that to build any form of credit. You can utilize business. Let's go down. To deny my birthright to a United States of America passport, refuting I am not a Georgian national without any prima facie evidence of my written consent to be a United States citizen, or by using the 14th Amendment alone, would be an act of enforcing bills of attainder or ex post facto laws, retroactively to the 1877 Constitution. Impairing what? The obligations of contracts, including the excommunicado express trust. And this is a contract too. So when they enforced 14th Amendment laws, that came after the 1877 Constitution, and it came after the Articles of Confederation. It came after the 1787 United States of America Constitution, and it came after the 1774 Articles of Association. Therefore, those are considered bills of attainder, ex post facto laws being applied retroactively. And that is unlawful. So no one is a 14th Amendment citizen unless they want to be, unless they truly accept that. I don't accept it. I don't need it. Now, here is the acts or conditions that we read on page 4 of the application. Remember what I said, you're just going to copy it word for word and place that here. This takes the place of crossing out certain sections on the previous older DS11 forms. You no longer need to do that. Just copy and paste it here. Now, what are we attaching to this explanatory statements? 3 things. Exhibit A, your trustee minutes that you filed when you recorded your trust in the county clerk. Remember, there was in minutes 4, you had your declaration of nationality, and she provided her seal. So it is done. You want to give a copy of that because that precedes this application, and it is in law, it is in league, in allegiance with the quote unquote provided by law. Public Law 94-241. Exhibit B, you're going to include the determination letter, is here, that they sent you for the rejection. And you're also going to include, of course, the updated passport application. So now let's provide them our unsworn declaration as we read in 28 USC 1746, number 1. Here we go. I, born in the territory of Georgia, one of the several states of the Union, territory of Atlanta, declare, certify, verify, or state under penalty of perjury under the laws of the United States of what? America, that I am a Moor, Aboriginal, Georgian national, but not a citizen of the United States, but not a United States citizen. And here's the public law. And the foregoing is true and correct. You don't need to get this notarized. Simply sign it. And here we go, without the United States. This replaces the need to do any type of UCC 1-308 or any of that. Just use the words. I don't like to use codes and statutes in my paperwork because they change all the time. They're redacted and they're copyrighted. So if you're using their copyrighted material, then they can claim that your entire form is theirs and disregard what you're trying to do. I mentioned the public laws. I mentioned the actual articles of the Constitution because those things will not change. Public laws are forever. They're done. But codes and statutes can be amended. Okay? So that's going to be it. You can utilize this template here to correct any rejections that you get from your passport application. Any questions you may have, please save them for Saturday. Every Saturday, we have classes in regards to the process of becoming tax exempt on the zero tax liability, the zero file list. And if people want to understand what that is, quickly show you here. We always file things according to the Internal Revenue Manual. That is the best way to do it. Follow the rules. Our express trust is composed and looked upon as a foreign person or a foreign entity is the person not required to file a U.S. tax return. Click that, it takes us to this section here. Let's zoom in a little bit. So it says, persons not required to file. This is section 21.7.13.3.2.7.1. It was last looked upon May 16, 2018, so it's been here for a while. If you do your SS4 correctly as stated in the book or as stated in the course, you will obtain a specific EIN number that is established on the zero file list. That is what you want to have, the zero file list, so that everything that you place in your trust, such as your social security number via your domestic estate, your businesses, LLCs, corporations, other trusts that exist prior to this one, can all be housed under your 9(8) express trust. And that's what you want to get. You want to get an EIN assigned with the prefix 9(8). So that way you are completely in the 0% tax bracket. With that being said, that's going to be it. I will see you guys later.